أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. I'm just a bit under the weather, and actually, some of the brothers know I was very close to canceling it, but I said, let me just get it out of the way. So, inshallah, just bear with me. There were a couple of points I wanted to mention, just as like a, like disclaimer, preliminary disclaimers for brothers and sisters who sort of come to this tafsir. Because there were some, I guess brothers who had some comments and stuff last week. I just want to, just clear it out. The presentations that I'm giving here are essentially research, technically research papers, right? But they're just not published yet. And these research papers are written at about a university audience. So, if you're first year, second year, third year, so that's the sort of level where I generally speak at. Now, that doesn't mean high school students are like banned from coming, grade 11, 12 kids, inshallah, you should be able to understand most of it. But there may be times that some discussions can get technical and so on and so forth. So, just bear with us on that, and you can always revisit later on as well. So that's one point. Secondly, it's not just the audience that's sitting over here. There's a lot of online audience as well, not just in Toronto. Like I have a lot of friends and stuff that watch it as well in England and stuff, who some of them are, friends for many years. So I have to speak in a way where that audience is also sort of being considered. Thirdly, there is sort of an element of rigor required for these tafasir. And it's very typical in the Hawza. For example, in the Hawza, like if you finish one term of a class and then you go for 3 months summer vacation, on September, when the teacher comes, they'll just start by saying, okay, so we were right here on this point, and they'll just continue. And you're gonna be like, wait, you didn't attend for 3 months, like at least do a review, recap. No, like they're not gonna waste time. So you gotta be on top of your studies. So even this tafsir, like if you notice, I just come and I just start from where I left off. Even last tafsir, even though I did a little bit of review, but generally it's not required. So what you would have to do is at least watch the first 2 lessons, because I do talk about the methodology, what I'm actually doing in this tafsir, because every speaker, scholar, student, whoever has a methodology to do certain things, whether it's giving a lecture, whether it's preparing a presentation or whatever. So I lay out those preliminaries in at least the first 2, you must watch it if you're just sort of coming in. So this is not like a drop-in, I'll just drop in today and I'll pick something up. And inshallah, maybe you will pick something up, but you may also get confused at times. So that's one thing. One brother, I think I had heard that, the last lesson was not very practical, it was mostly theory, even though I did have a whole discussion on akhlaq and stuff even last week. So my goal is to have at least one akhlaqi talk in the tafsir. I think every session I have done that, and also depends on the ayat as well. If there's, like, I'm not gonna make up an ayah discussion from an ayah. If an ayah comes where there is an akhlaqi point I can expand on, I definitely have been doing that. So that's one thing. Secondly, I think there is this confusion among some brothers and sisters that as if theoretical discussions are not practical, which is not true. Okay, for example, belief, especially in our sort of understanding, belief is what results in the amal, right? And the better your belief is, the better your iman is, the better your amal is going to be, right? And I think we need to kind of get out of this idea that somehow just give me these practical anecdotes and I will act upon them, even with a weak iman or even with a weak understanding of religion. Generally, it does not really work that way. You must have a strong understanding, a strong theoretical understanding of your religion. Even the ethics, you must have a strong, foundation in that, and that is what results in the amal. So it's very, basic points over here. So that's what I wanted to mention over here. So inshallah, we will continue with the surah, and I had read till surah, ayah number 10. So now I'm going to read from between ayah 11 to ayah 16 for the first part of our Tafsir today, ayah 11 to ayah 16. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ذرني ومن خلقت وحيدا وجعلت له مالا ممدودا وبنين شهودا ومهدت له تمهيدا ثم يطمع أن أزيدا كلا إنه كان لآياتنا عنيدا صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Okay. So Surah al-Muddaththir, the first 10 ayat, we talked about the whole idea of the Prophet is being asked to sort of stand up, start your inzar, which is a warning. Start warning the community, start warning the people. Remember, Surah al-Muzammil was more of his own spiritual guidelines for himself to strengthen his spirituality. Now Surah al-Muddaththir is, okay, now you need to go out and start warning the community. Praise your Lord, glorify Him. Make sure that you are clean in a state of tahara. Stay away from the idol worship. Do not do minna. Do not oblige people with the good things that you do for them. And have patience in this entire, mission. And then it talked about the Day of Judgment, and we gave the whole, discussion on the different stages of the Day of Judgment. Now the ayat are going to become very, very harsh. Okay, they're going to become very harsh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so before that it says, the Day of Judgment will be very harsh will be very difficult for the kafirin. And now it comes down to the Prophet, and as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking directly now to the Prophet, and it's kind of back on earth. So it talked about the Day of Judgment and everything. Now back here, Allah is saying, ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا. So this surah, according to almost all Mufassirin say, this surah, this discussion that's about to happen is about a man named Walid bin Mughira. Okay, Walid bin Mughira. Okay. Allah said, ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا. ذَرْنِي is similar to saying, دَعْنِي وَإِيَّاهُ. Meaning, it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the Prophet, leave him to me. I got your back. Okay, I got your back. You do what I've asked you to do. Let me handle this guy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is literally saying this. The way they translate it says, and leave to me, O Prophet, the one I created, wahida. Leave him to me, the one who I created, wahida. Okay, what is wahida? Wahid is from wahid. Okay, they say wahida over here could mean two meanings. Okay, either it could mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him all on his own. Leave to me this individual who I created by myself. Nobody had to help me to create this guy. Okay, there's no angels required. There's nobody. I am the one who directly created this individual, and he thinks that he is now, needless of me and so on. Let me deal with him. I'm the khaliq, he's the makhluq. I will deal with him because I'm the one who created him. There's no other party that was interfering in his creation process that will come and sort of, set up a bureaucratic system for me and say, wait, Allah, wait, you can, get a verification and, sign this paper like you have in, Iranian offices, like, sign this and, get this paper signed. No, Allah is saying, I'm the one who's responsible. I'm the one who created him. I'll handle him. This is one possible interpretation. But the second interpretation, which is more likely because of the continuation of the ayat, it says, leave to me this individual who I created, and he was actually all alone. In the womb of his mother, he was all alone. When he was born, he was just on his own. Okay, on his own meaning like, it's not like he was like rich, born rich. He was just a normal person. And after that, وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا. I created him just a simple man. And then I am the one who actually gave him abundant wealth. So Allah even attributes his richness to himself. He says, I created him, and I am the one who gave him the wealth. Okay, I am the one who gave him the wealth. وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا. And I am the one who gave him children. Shuhud means, remember we had the discussion, I think lesson 4 or something, about shahid and shuhud and so on. You can refer back to that as well. Over here, shuhud means I gave him sons, and this is specifically sons over here. He had 10 sons who are always by his side. Who are always by his side, okay? What do you mean, so what? So what if they were by his side, Because he was so rich, his children never had to leave Makkah on a trade journey. Okay, which was the normal thing to do. Children would go your child would grow up, your son especially would grow up, and then, the whole point of having, they would get happy with the boy is because, oh, finally, someone can take over my trade, my caravan, someone can take over my business. He had 10 sons who never actually, they were so privileged, they never even had to leave Mecca to go to Syria and Palestine and these regions. No, they were always with him. So that's a lot of honor and protection and some, a lot of credibility that this individual has in Mecca. Okay, so Allah is saying, I'm the one who gave him the wealth and I gave him the sons who were always with him. وَمَهَدْتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. And I made his entire life very easy for him. I'm the one. So look, leave the one who I created all alone. He had nothing. He was just a child. They didn't even have diapers back then. They had maybe cloth diapers. I don't even know if they used those, actually, to be honest. By the way, on a side point, there is, you cannot pray with najasa on your body, on your clothes and stuff. But there is, one of the exceptions is a murabbiya, a sort of like a woman who is like a babysitter, basically. Because that time children would just urinate and stuff. So there's an exception for these women who are in this sort of profession. If a child urinates, for example, or your clothes are najis and time's running out, you can pray with the najasa on you. So look at that world, right? You're living in that world, right? There's no Huggies, diapers and stuff. So this kid is just, a little brat maybe in Mecca. Allah is saying, I gave him all of this. The money I gave him, the children I gave him, and I made his life very easy. Okay? I made life for him very easy. Okay? مَحَدْتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. I made life for him very easy. Now it will change. Okay? ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدًا. Okay? كَلَّا إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِآيَاتِنَا عَنِيدًا. These two ayat are going to describe the problem. After I gave everything to this man, ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدًا. He became greedy. He wanted more. Okay, he wanted more. And, kalla, we discussed kalla as well in Surah al-Alaq. You can refer to that. We discussed what is the meaning of kalla. Over here means no, No, he has surely been anida, meaning he's very stubborn. Okay, he's very stubborn, because now the Prophet ﷺ, who's coming with this Quran, this new message, is going to cause problems, because these rich people are the ones who are making all the money in Mecca. They have the whole idol worship business that's running. In the Hajj, they take the money, for example, so on and so forth. The Prophet is coming there, causing problems in his life. He was the chief. He's the richest man in Arabia, by the way, one of the richest men in Arabia. Prophet is going to come and cause a problem in his whole entire life. While he is someone who's not content with what he already has. He says, no, I want more. And this individual, this 40-year-old man, is coming and causing problems for me. Okay? And I'm the richest man. And remember, I think we talked about how being rich was a sort of a point of authority. You became an authority. Abu Lahab is the same situation. When you were rich, you were the authority. Now someone is coming and threatening his authority, threatening his power, maybe even threatening his money. So his control, his power, he sees all of this getting sort of, he seems like he might lose it. He might have to lose it. Allah says he became greedy. Ta'am means food. In Arabic they say ta'am means food, but it means, he desired. But inshallah we will discuss what is ta'am over here. And he became very stubborn. So the first discussion we want to have today is actually about greed. Okay, greed. Okay. Greediness is, in many religions, it's considered one of the destructive sins. Okay, what do we mean by destructive sins? What they say in Arabic, Hirz or tama. Inshallah, I will discuss these words. By destructive, they mean that it becomes the root cause for many other problems, ethical problems, and even like sins. Okay, so it's considered a destructive, one of the major sort of ethical sins, if you want to call it. Okay, ethical sins, it's a problem. Okay, what exactly is it? Okay, linguistically, hirs or tama over here, it means that you have an excessive and a strong desire towards something. Okay, it could be anything, and it is a very passionate and eager desire. It's eager. Okay, there are other words for it as well. Inshallah, I will mention in a bit. And it not just it's a desire, but it makes you dissatisfied, with whatever you possess currently. So you may have a house, you may have a nice, decent house, but you are not content. You look at somebody else's house and you want that house as well. You want more. You have a car, okay? You have a nice car, but you see someone else with a better car, now you want that as well. Okay, or you have power, okay? You see somebody else has more power, you want power. Like you want to just get more power and fame and so on. Imam Khomeini in his sharh he has a very important sharh commentary on a hadith called Hadith Junud al-Aqli wal-Jahl. Okay, very important hadith. And over there he discusses Hirz. I just want to quote his definition. He says that greed is a disposition, a malaka, that emerges due to a severe reliance on the dunya and its affairs, the world and its affairs. And it includes indulgence in food, and due to the heart's attention towards the people of the world. Okay, so two things. Why do you become greedy? According to Imam Khomeini, you become greedy because you are severely reliant on the world and its affairs. Okay, and secondly, because your heart, your qalb, has tawajjuh towards the people of the world. Okay, what do we mean by that? Meaning you want to impress people. Okay, you are trying to live your life for other people. If I have money, obviously people are going to respect you and talk about you. Wow, this guy has money. If you have, let's say, children, if you have, I don't know, money, fame, power, and so on, the typical things over here. And that's another thing. It's not just about money. Okay, greed is not just in money. Many people think greedy for money. Yes, money is definitely one of the things, but many things, even food, control, dominance, power, all of these things you can become greedy in all of these. Okay, fame and stuff, so on. So that's what greed is. And this man Walid, Allah says he fell victim to this. He fell victim to his tama, to his greed. Okay, and it says, ثُمَّ يَتْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ. He wanted more, ziyada. He wanted more. Okay, Allah said, I gave him everything, made his life easy. He still wants more. He's not happy. And the opposite of greed is contentment. Okay, content. Content means that you are mentally and sort of emotionally satisfied with the things that you have currently. Okay, you are satisfied and you live your life. An individual who is content, they live their lives with honor, with respect. And in some of the narrations, they say this individual is called a hur, free. So we say freedom. Freedom is someone who is content with the situation that they are in. And the most famous narration that defines hurriya, freedom, is, I don't have it on me right now, but it's a narration where Imam, I guess Imam Sadiq or someone, one of the Imams, they say that freedom is when Yusuf alayhi salam was in the well. Okay, he was in the well, a young child. Okay, and there's obviously nothing there. He's in a well, and his contentment with that sort of state that he was in. Okay, not panicking, not worried, just sort of there. He says, Imam Sadiq says, that's what it means to be a hur. That's what it means to be free. You're not worried. You're relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than relying on the dunya or its people. Okay? So this individual is going to be immune from the vices of greed in this world and so on and so forth. Okay, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam says that I have seen all good. He says all good is gathered together in eradicating of greed for what is in people's possessions. So remember I said it's a destructive sin. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is saying the same thing. He says, look, greed, if you become greedy, all the goodness is gathered in you not becoming greedy of things people possess. This is the criteria he's giving in one narration. That look, greediness, all of goodness, if you see goodness anywhere, you can assume that there is no greediness in that scenario. People are not greedy, for example. Okay, greediness is not just an issue of a single individual. Sometimes communities and societies and nations can become greedy. For example, the US. Okay, probably the greediest nation on earth. Right? They can, because of their greed, they can go and destroy entire nations. They can lie, they can cheat, they can torture, they can, take people from our countries and send them to Guantanamo Bay. Right? So this is greed. So you can have an entire system that is built on greed. And greed causes misery and problems, in the entire society. Because when someone or a political system or, let's say in the community, a couple of individuals are greedy, they make life miserable for everyone. Okay, they make life miserable for everyone. Okay, why? Because greediness does not allow for justice to prevail. How can you have justice when you want more than what you need? That's what greediness is. Right? You're never content. Okay, there's no justice, there's no security, there's no stability, there's no tranquility in the community, in a certain nation, for example. Why? Because there are people who are greedy in the community. Okay, or for example, the moral excellence and the spirituality, the spiritual status of a community cannot move forward because of people that may have greed in them. Okay? Greed can completely destroy an entire nation. Okay? And that is like a, to say a sunnah, it's a divine sort of sunnah. This is not something that we're just observing right now. If you look at past nations, you will see this is what happens. And many young children over here as well, so I have to quote, can't mention everything, but every quote and every example. But if you look at the reasons why, let's say, the Greeks fell, for example, you can read up about this, like why did the ancient Greek civilization fall? Because of greed towards some vices and so on and so forth, right? So, and when you are greedy, you will try to get to your means through unjust ways. Okay, you have lusts that you want to acquire and achieve at the cost of people getting hurt, people getting damaged, people getting oppressed because you're greedy. Okay, so unfortunately, in the modern world, discontentment with life has become a norm. Okay, I was a marketing major. Okay, so we learned a lot of these things, about consumerism, how to even trick people into, how to create desires in people. This is all part of our courses and degrees. How to create desire in people. Okay, to want something that they don't actually even need. Make them discontent with things that they currently have. This was all taught to us. We learned this in our courses and our degree, and in psychology, for example, there's many ways to do this. And I don't want to go into too much detail now. I'll just reference a very nice lecture series from 2013 by Sheikh Salim Yusuf Ali. Actually, it was in Masumin Center, and it was called. I have it here. It was called "Culture of Instant Gratification." Okay, if you Google this, culture of instant gratification, he talks about, the world that we are living in is a world where we are always seeking instant gratification. Okay, because it pushes greed, it pushes consumerism. What is it? The notion of impulsive purchasing, impulsive buying. We don't have a problem with consuming and consumption. We have a problem with impulsive consumption. For example, you want to get a house, alhamdulillah, go buy a house. But you're gonna look at the area. Okay, this is an area where rich people live. Okay, and I want a big house, so I will go purchase my house there. That becomes more important for you than to see, okay, who are the neighbors? Okay, who are the neighbors in this community? Are the neighbors, for example, good, religious, ethical, moral? Those things become a secondary thing for you. What becomes important for you is your status. The house becomes a status symbol for you. Okay, because of this idea of greed. This is the sort of culture that we are living in. In order to resolve the issue of greed, you have to, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one. Okay, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, you must constantly remember Allah and acknowledge how temporary your life is. Okay? The more you are able to acknowledge how temporary your life is, the more content you will be with what you have. Okay? And you will begin to focus and prioritize those things that you will realize there is an eternal life as well, correct? So when you realize this is a temporary life, you will become less anxious and less greedy to try and seek these things out, and you will become more greedy. And I will use the word. I will explain why hirz can be used in a positive connotation as well. You will become more greedy for things that will help you in the hereafter. Okay. So over here, there's a poem that I want to quote by a very famous poet who was actually not a Muslim. He was not a Muslim. He was actually an apostate. He was a murtad, okay, in the 4th century Hijri. Very, very famous Arab poet, Al-Ala al-Ma'arri. Okay, they say one of the greatest Arab poets. Him, Al-Mutanabbi, these are some very famous poets that lived. So Al-Ala al-Ma'arri, when he was 3 years old, 4 years old, miskin, he got like smallpox or something, and he became blind. And his entire life is basically, he's blind basically. And he becomes depressed, and it's a very interesting life of his. But he has some very interesting gems, okay, especially in his poetry, okay? And people study it. We even have to study some of it in the Hawzat because of the eloquence of his poetry. And he says something about those individuals who are greedy around you, and they are trying to devour you. And he's telling you to be careful of these people. When you recognize someone who is greedy, stay away from them. Don't become deceived by them. Okay? And he says, لَقَدْ حَرَسُوا عَلَى الدُّنْيَا فَبَادُوا فَلَا تَكُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ مِنَ الْحِرَاسِ. Okay, these people, the greedy people, they were covetous. Okay, they were greedy for the world and thus they perished. They died. So don't be amongst the covetous for the world. Don't be amongst the people who are greedy for the world. وَأَوْدِحُمْ عَلَى كُرْهٍ ثَرَاهُمْ فَأَرْضُ الْقَوْمِ خَالِيَةُ الْعِرَاسِ. Deposit these people in their graves, though they may be loathing. Okay, they don't want to be buried. Okay, so Abu al-Ala is saying, ditch these guys. Even though these people are trying to act all nice with you, they're greedy people, they're trying to act all nice with you. He's saying, no, ditch these people. Okay, why? Because the land of these people, meaning the vicinity of these people, or if you become close to them, it is void of any courtyard, meaning it doesn't have anything for you. Your friendship with them will not give you anything. تُصَدِّقُ مَنْ أَتَاكَ بِغَيْرِ صِدْقٍ وَمَا أَوْلَى أَمِينَكَ بِإِخْتِرَاسِ. You believe the one who comes to you, though they are untruthful. Okay, this greedy person that they're coming to you, you maybe get impressed by their fame, their money. You believe this individual who comes to you, though they are untruthful. And how worthy is your confidant to be a liar? This individual you feel like he's your confidant, your Amin, the person you think you trust. This guy is, actually a liar. Okay? وَلَيْسَ أَخُوكَ إِلَّا لَيْثَ غَابٍ. This brother of yours is nothing but the lion of the jungle, lion of the forest. This greedy man, these greedy people. يَسُورُ إِلَى إِفْتِرَاسِكَ بِإِفْتِرَاسِ. Okay? Heading towards you, seeking an opportunity to devour you. This is, why am I quoting this? This is important because you must understand the world you're living in. This is Abu al-Ala is talking about maybe some individuals or something, but there is a lot of symbolism over here, which I alluded to earlier, that look, if you are living in a system built on greed and hirz, it is coming after you. And look at the people in the previous generation, just in our communities, in our societies, who were part of this system of hirz, of greed. Fabadu, they all perished. Okay? So he's saying, don't be like them. Don't be like them. Bury them, bury their memory. Don't get impacted by them. Don't get influenced by them. Okay, they have nothing good for you. They will come to you like a Sadiq and as an Amin, as a trustworthy friend of yours. But actually, your brother, who you think is your friend, لَيْسَ أَخُوكَ إِلَّا لَيْسَ غَابٍ. Nothing, he's just a lion. Okay, he's just a lion ready to launch on you. And this is the world we're living in, brothers and sisters. Right? All this consumerism, social media, don't think these people are trying to be nice to you. They're putting traps in front of you. They're putting traps in front of you. But the way to resolve this is also, interestingly, in Allama Iqbal's poetry, where he talks to Abu al-Ala al-Ma'ari. Okay? And I'm probably going to butcher the Urdu poem right now, and I wish maybe Nabil can read it or someone can read it. Right? But Allama Iqbal addresses, because Abu al-Ala is very famous, he's a very famous poet. So Allama Iqbal gives a solution, a sort of solution to us, like how do you deal with the environment that we are in, which is greed all around us, and they're coming after us and they're tempting us. Okay? He says, apologies, once again, कहते हैं कभी गोश्त न खाता था Ma'ari. Okay? It is said that Ma'ari never ate meat, which is true, he was a vegan. Is it the correct word? Vegan, vegetarian, I don't know. I don't know what's politically correct. फल फूल पे करता था हमेशा गुजर औकात. He lived on fruits and vegetables. एक दोस्त ने भूना हुआ तीतर उसे भेजा. Okay, a friend sent him a तीतर like this bird. Okay, शायद कि वो शातिर इसी तरकीब से हो मात. To allure that clever gentleman, Abu al-Ala is clever. He wanted to trick him. Maybe he might eat this meat. He made a nice, meat, I don't know, stew for him or something. Maybe he put a lot of sabzi in it, and he tried to trick him. ये ख्वातर व ताज़ा मअरी ने जो देखा कहने लगा वो साहिब गुफरान व लुज़ूमात. When Ma'ari saw this elegant tray in front of him, he, the author of Ghufran and Luzumat, these are the books he had. Okay, so Allama Iqbal saying this author of Ghufran and Luzumat, he said, "Eh murgak bechare Farsi or Urdu, I keep forgetting. Bechara zara ye to bata tu, tera wo guna kya tha ye hai jiski mukafat." Oh, you helpless little bird, would you tell me your sin for which this punishment has been awarded to you? Like, why did they turn you into a stew? Afsos sad afsos ke shahi na bana tu, dekhe na teri aankh ne fitrat ke isharat. Alas, so sad you did not become a falcon. You were a tita, you were a small bird. Your eye did not perceive the directives of nature. You should have been a falcon. They wouldn't have been able to catch you. And this is the famous line, تقدیر کے قاضی کا یہ فتویٰ ہے ازل سے ہے جرم ضعیفی کی سزا مرگ مفاجات. It is the eternal decree of the judge sitting in judgment on destinies. A rough reference to God here. What is the eternal decree? That weakness is a crime punishable by death. Meaning what? If you don't strengthen yourself, okay, to fight this system that is around you, it is a qaida, it is a principle that you will meet your death. Allama Iqbal's poetry. This is a qaida, and obviously Allama Iqbal's poetry, a lot of it has to do with references to Muslim nation states and the fall of the Muslim Islamic civilization and how the West colonized us. So imagine that in that context. He's trying to say, oh Muslims, wake up. If you keep remaining weak, they will keep imposing these systems on you, these paradigms on you, and you're not even like waking up. You're lost in your own world. You're not strengthening yourself. You're not even waking up. You're not even realizing what they're doing to you, and they're doing to you what Ma'arri is saying. So Iqbal is saying that there's a principle, there's a decree, eternal decree, that the one who is weak, if you are weak, this is a crime which is punishable by death. So yehi hoga. If you are a titar in this nature, in this cosmos, you will be eaten. Okay. So this is very interesting, sort of poetry over here that I wanted to quote to show that yes, we are in a system that pushes greed and all of these things, but we have to fight it. And to fight it, you have to become strong. Religiously, spiritually, in your education, you have to become strong. So these things, you're able to give them less priority, and you inculcate contentment. Okay, this is the key. I want to do a linguistic analysis a little bit. Okay, a little bit of linguistic analysis, because the ayah says, ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ. So I want to quote about this idea of tama'. Tama' in the Quran is used 12 times. Okay, I will go through this very quickly. And it is used in the meaning of hope. Okay, there's 3-4 meanings it's used in. Meaning of hope. Okay, it is used in the meaning of a wish that cannot be attained. It is used in the meaning of Hirz, which is the one I am reading right now. And it is also used in the meaning of personal inclinations. So if you notice, all 4 meanings are kind of similar. Okay, so the most common meaning in the Quran is the meaning of hope. Okay, for example, Surah 7, Ayah 46, and Surah 7, Ayah 56. وَبَيْنَهُمَا حِجَابٌ وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ رِجَالٌ يَعْرِفُونَ كُلًّا بِسِيمَاهُمْ وَنَادُوا أَصْحَابَ الْجَنَّةِ أَنْ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ لَمْ يَدْخُلُوهَا وَهُمْ يَطْمَعُونَ. Okay, there will be this is about the A'raf. I talked about it last week, the heights. There will be a height barrier between paradise and hell. On the heights of that barrier will be people who will recognize the residents of both by their appearance. So they will be able to see people of hell, people of heaven. They will call out to the people of paradise, Salamun alaykum, peace be upon you. They will not yet have entered paradise, but hum yatma'un, but they really want to go in. They hope to get inside. Okay? Anyways, so Surah 7, Ayah 56. Also Surah 26, Ayah 51. I will not quote. So there's more. Surah Ra'ad, Ayah 12. Surah Rum, Ayah 24. Surah Sajda, Ayah 16. Surah Shu'ara, Ayah 82. Surah Ma'idah, Ayah 86. So tam' or yatma'un, yatma'u, these words are being used in the meaning of hope. Okay, you hope something. Second meaning that is used in the Quran is for a wish that cannot be fulfilled. أَفَتَطْمَعُونَ أَن يُؤْمِنُونَ لَكُمْ وَقَدْ كَانَ فَرِيقٌ مِّنْهُمْ يَسْمَعُونَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ يُحَرِّفُونَهُ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَقَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Okay, so this is Surah Baqarah, Ayah 75. Do you believers still expect them to be true to you? Though a group of them would hear the word of Allah, then knowingly corrupted it after understanding. It's talking about munafiqeen. أَيَطْمَعُ كُلُّ امْرٍ مِّنْهُمْ أَن يُدْخَلَ جَنَّةَ نَعِيمٍ. Surah 70, Ayah 38. Does every one of them expect to be admitted into Jannah? So this is about those people who will not be entered into Jannah, but they have this tama'. It's a wishful thinking, basically. You're not getting in. Sorry. And third meaning is in the meaning of personal inclinations. Okay, this is a very important ayah. Unfortunately, Surah 33, Ahzab, maybe in 10 years we will get to it, but I have very extensive analysis on this, okay? The whole wives of the Prophet and so on. I think maybe I did it in the thematic, I don't recall. Surah 33, Ayah 32. يَا نِسَاءَ النَّبِيِّ لَسْتُنَّ كَأَحَدٍ مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ إِنِ اتَّقَيْتُنَّ فَلَا تَخْدَعْنَ بِالْقَوْلِ فَيَطْمَعَ الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ مَرَضٌ وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. O wives of the Prophet, you are not like any other woman. You have a status in society. If you have taqwa of Allah, then do not be seductive in speech with the Sahaba, with the men. Because those who have a sickness in their hearts will be tempted. وَقُلْنَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. Speak to them in a very noble and respectful way. And this is the ayah that is used to prove that women can speak to men, but it has to be قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. It has to be in a formal manner, in a respectful manner. Okay, so this is the ayah over here. And the last meaning is of Hirz. Tam' in the meaning of Hirz is basically the ayah that we quoted. Now, I want to do a little bit more, not technical, but I want to give you guys a little bit of an idea, principle here from usul. Hirz. When you hear the word Hirz, I think maybe if the Arab brothers and sisters in the crowd, they're the best to test them. Okay, if you say Hirz, the meaning that will come to their mind is a negative meaning, a negative connotation. If you say lalach in Urdu, lalach is a negative thing. Okay, lalchi is lalchi means greedy. Okay, so it's not a positive connotation. Okay, but you must remember there's a discussion in usul al-fiqh which says that look, you must go into the history of certain words and figure out whether this connotation always existed or did not always exist. Okay, for example, very simple example, if I say meat right now, meat, okay, it's not the exact example I want to give, but just to kind of give you, get you thinking. If I see meat right now, the first thing that comes to your mind is, I don't know, cow, right? Beef. When I say meat, fish doesn't come to your mind. Even though, linguistically speaking, fish is also meat, like fish, meat, you're eating meat, gosht, right? But because we are so accustomed to this culture where the meat that you say is cow, when you say meat, the instance of meat which comes is the cow, lahm of the, baqarah. But if you go to some, I don't know, south of Iran, Ahwaz or something where, the fish industry is huge, when you say gusht or gosht, right, they will assume you're talking about fish. That's what they eat. Right? It's not easy to find cow all the time there. So these connotations and these masadiq, these instances can change depending on time and place and culture and so on. Likewise, there are words in the Arabic language whose connotations have changed many times. Now look at the word Hirz. Hirz, if you look at the later 3rd century Islamic corpus that was written, the hadith corpus, all this tafsir, it is a negative thing. For example, Shaykh Kulaini in Usul al-Kafi, he has a chapter called Hubb al-Dunya wal-Hirs alayha. Okay, he says Hubb al-Dunya, it's a chapter, okay, it has a chapter, I don't know, it has like 17 narrations in it. Love of the dunya and hirs towards it, okay, being greedy towards, so greed over here, hirs is a negative thing. Shaykh al-Amili in his Wasail al-Shia, Karahatul Hirs ala dunya, Karahatul Hirsi ala dunya, okay, it's detested and ugly to have hirs on the dunya. This is a chapter of hadith he has. Alama Majlisi in Bihar al-Anwar has a chapter called Al-Hirs wa Tul al-Amal. Okay, greed and having these long, far-fetched hopes. Okay, these are negative, 30 narrations he has over here. Okay, so you notice in the hadith corpus, the word hirs came to be seen as a negative word. Okay? But if you look at the Quran, okay, you will notice that the word hirs is mentioned 5 times, and 4 times it is actually mentioned in a positive connotation. Only 1 time it is mentioned in a negative connotation. So this shows us, it's a very nice historical analysis you can do on this, that, okay, at a certain point in time, maybe 2nd century, 3rd century, maybe something was happening, or maybe the use of the word became confined as a, initial meaning as a negative connotation. So look at the ayat of the Quran, okay? It says, Surah 9, ayah 128, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. There certainly has come to you a messenger from among yourselves. He is he is concerned for you by your suffering. Harisun alaykum. He is anxious for you. He is very concerned for you. Okay? He is greedy. Okay, he is greedy for your well-being. That's actually what it says. Harisun alaykum. He is greedy for your well-being and gracious and merciful to the believers. Okay? Look at this. وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And most people will not believe, O Prophet, no matter how haris you are, no matter how greedy you are to convert them. إِن تَحْرِصْ عَلَى هُدَاهُمْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي مَنْ يُضِلُّ وَمَا لَهُمْ مِنْ نَاصِرِينَ. Even though you, O Prophet, are keen on their guidance. Okay, تَحْرِص Allah certainly does not guide those who leave, those He leaves to stray, and they will have no helpers. And the fourth case, which is also positive, is actually in the discussion of polygamy. Okay, the ayah 4, ayah 129. وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ. You will never be able to maintain justice between your wives, no matter how haris you are, no matter how greedy you are or keen you are to maintain justice. It's very difficult. So this is the thing. Now the negative place, one place it is used negative. Okay, it says Surah Baqarah ayah 96. وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ عَلَى حَيَاةٍ. Okay, then it goes on. You will surely find them clinging to life more eagerly than any other people. Okay. When you look at even the Quran, it seems that the word Hirz can be used both positively and negatively, actually. Okay, it can be used both positively and negatively. And we have narrations as well now from some of the Imams, alayhimus salam, where they have also used Hirz in a positive connotation in some places. So there are obviously the negative ones, but there are some positive connotations as well. For example, it says, okay, Dua 45 of Sahifa, farewell to the month of Ramadan. Assalamu alayka ma kana ahrasana bil amsi alayk. Peace be upon you, O month of Ramadan. How much we were haris, how much we craved you yesterday. So over here is positive. Okay. In Tuhuf al-Uqul, there's a lengthy wasiyah of Imam Baqir alayhi salam to a companion named Jabir. Okay, most likely this is Jabir bin Yazid al-Ju'fi. He has, and a similar narration is also in Al-Kafi, but he says in this very lengthy narration, he says, وَلَا حِرْسَ كَالْمُنَافَسَ فِي الدَّرَجَاتِ. There is no hirs or there's no craving or greed like competing in gaining higher ranks. Okay, so we have a chapter of munafasa or musabaqa, competition. In Islam, the narrations say you should compete for a better spiritual status. That should be the competition amongst the mu'mineen. فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Okay, people will try to, in the surah Nazi'at, if I recall, فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. People, the believers in the heaven will try to get this drink. Okay, that type of competition that is there. So this is it. There are other narrations as well. I didn't quote all of them that talk about having hirs in fighting in the way of Allah, hirs in getting a deep understanding of religion, in maintaining unity in the community, hirs in gaining satisfaction of Allah, hirs in taqwa, hirs in fulfilling the wajibat, hirs in identifying your own aib, your own deficiencies, hirs in fulfilling the needs of the believer. This is very important, guys. This is so important. I'm forced to quote this story. Fulfilling the needs of a believer, the hajat of a mu'min, and putting a smile on their face. I don't know if I said it here or not, but Muhaddis Nuri, Muhaddis Nuri, teacher of Sheikh Abbas Qumi, the one who wrote Mafatihul Janan, he's a muhaddis. He says, his students say to him, "Oh Muhaddis Nuri, you are always going far and beyond to, fulfill the hajat of the mu'mineen. Always, you're going, and they're saying you're going extreme. Calm down. We understand it's a good thing, but you are always going extreme to do this." And he says, "I'm a muhaddith, and I can tell you that the most rewarding amal that a mu'min can do is the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam," which is true. If you look at Kamilul Ziyarat, the merits that are mentioned for the ziyarah, it's unbelievable. You'll be shocked. But he says, despite that, I can tell you that fulfilling the hajat and putting a smile on a believer's face is more important and more rewarding than the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Okay? This is Muhaddith Nuri, it's not me saying it. Okay, this is a guy who has a hadith. He's only known for hadith sciences, right? So this is very important. So hirs in trying to, these are narrations, I'm just not quoting them. Hirs in trying to bring a smile on a believer, making them happy. Hirs in keeping them away from harm, removing any harm from them, and so on and so forth. I had some other discussions here on the synonyms for hirs. I will skip that right now. Other thing that this ayah mentions after that is كَلَّا إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِآيَاتِنَا عَنِيدًا. Anid means stubborn. Okay? This man, Walid bin Mughira, he was, over here, it doesn't even say he was doing kufr. It's already assumed he is doing kufr. He already knows the truth. But now it's come to a point where this man is just being stubborn. He's anid, okay? And stubbornness, okay, being anid, is also a ethical, moral vice that comes out, that emerges from arrogance, okay, takabbur. Okay, What does it mean? It means to repeat an action which is in accordance to your own desire, but against the desire of an opposite party. And look, once again, just like Hirz, stubbornness is not always bad. Sometimes you should be stubborn with certain things. Okay? If you are on the haqq, and so on and so forth, if you are on a moral good, for example, position, there has to be some stubbornness over there. But over here is talking about being stubborn when stubbornness means being deep. Okay, you're being deep. That's what it means. Ye banda bahut deep tha yaar. I'm telling him, I gave you everything, just listen to me, I'm the one who took care of you, but now you want more and you're being deep about it as well. Okay, you're not even like, at least make a dua, maybe I will accept your dua, but you're like, no, just give it to me. Okay, but no, I'm not going to accept this. Okay, and stubbornness, unfortunately, it makes us very, very dogmatic about our positions. Okay, this is a problem. Dogma. What is dogma? Dogma means, or being dogmatic means, that you have certain beliefs or ideas or positions or opinions that you believe are just bulletproof and there's no way it can ever be wrong. Whereas our own life experiences tell us how wrong we are literally every single day about different things. Just look at that. Look at your hindsight, which is 2020. Okay, look at how many blunders and mistakes you make in your life. And I'm not saying sins. I'm just saying blunders. Like, okay, you thought this was right. Now you're wrong. Okay, blunders that are being made, for example. Just think about the blunders. So, but because you become stubborn, you forget this. Okay, you forget this. Okay. And this is unfortunately, it's not good. And this is basically the negative type of stubbornness. Okay, why are you stubborn? Okay, why do people become stubborn? You have an over-exaggerated self-esteem. You think you are like, you're the boss, man. You're the boss. You want to show hostility towards others for their past. Maybe they did something to you in the past, and now you are just stubborn for it, just for the sake of it. Okay, you want to, make the scores equal. It may be 10 years gone, but because they did something to you 10 years ago, little thing, you're stubborn. Okay, this creates it. Sometimes you have an, embarrassing, like sometimes you may get exposed with something, so you are embarrassed, so you become stubborn to hide that embarrassment. Okay, or you dislike authority. Okay, because let's say that now the Prophet ﷺ is coming, Walid is going to realize he was wrong all along. All this wealth, and maybe he duped a lot of people while getting rich. He's going to realize another authoritative figure will come on me and he will expose me. Okay, I will become exposed in the Meccan community, and people will realize that I was not actually correct. Okay, so you become stubborn. These are the things that create it. Or you have a very, very strong desire of attention. Okay, you're always seeking attention, so you also become stubborn. There's a couple of reasons why people become stubborn. Sometimes once again, I always mention this: individuals and community. Even when I talked about the death of an individual and death of a community, greed of an individual, greed of a community, stubbornness of an individual, and then sometimes you have stubbornness of an entire community or entire nation. You just don't want to listen. Sometimes you have opposing parties. I think I gave a lecture on preliminaries of dialogue. Okay, preliminaries of dialogue on how to just have a basic dialogue with the people in the community. Okay, in the South Asian world, back in the days, even now, the munazara culture is huge. Okay, debates, polemics. Okay, every day like Sunni, Shia, this, that, fighting all the time. That's the world they live in. So actually, Arab and even South Asian scholars wrote books on the etiquettes of munazara. Munazara is a debate, but it's also an exchange of opinions. There are adab to even engage in a discussion and a debate and a dispute when you have. There are adab for it. But because we haven't been taught it, we don't know them, so we think the only way to resolve it is through stubbornness, unfortunately. Because we haven't been taught these things, unfortunately. So, and the example for us is the Meccan community. Meccan community was stubborn. Okay, in Surah 6, Ayah 25, it says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْتَمِعَ إِلَيْكَ وَجَعَلْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَنْ يَفْقَهُوهُ وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرًا وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَاتٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوكَ يُجَادِلُونَكَ يَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Okay, there are some of them who pretend to listen to your recitation of the Quran, but we have cast veils over their heart, leaving them unable to comprehend them, and there is deafness in their ears. Even if they were to see every ayah, every sign, they will still not believe in them. The disbelievers would even come to argue with you saying, this Quran is nothing but ancient fables. Asatirul awwaleen. Sheikh Tusi, our Sheikh Tusi, the main, at-Tabyan in his Tafsir, he says, even if they were to see every sign, they will still not believe in them. That every sign and miracle that signifies on the nubuwwah of the Prophet, they will not believe in it because of their stubbornness. This is translation from Sheikh Tusi. So this is a summary of the discussions on greed and stubbornness. And I've spoken for an hour, and there is still an entire discussion still left. Okay, so brothers and sisters, if you are getting tired, I don't mind if you guys leave. This recording is available. You can always watch it. But there is quite a lot of discussion left. Okay, so, and I think 90 minutes was the original time anyway. So it's just been an hour. But I have quite a lengthy discussion that is still left right now. And it's going to be a bit long. So if you're getting tired or exhausted, feel free to just go, and then we can send the recording. Obviously, no one's going to go. But, and we have a loud salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I will read ayah 17 to ayah 25. So we're moving to the next section. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. سأرهقه صعودا إنه فكر وقدر فقتل كيف قدر ثم قتل كيف قدر ثم نظر ثم عبس وبصر ثم أدبر واستكبر فقال إن هذا إلا سحر يؤثر إن هذا إلا قول البشر. Okay, I will just read the quick translation. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now that this man is being stubborn, I will make his life unbearable. Okay, I will make his life unbearable. And this is a contrast. Okay, it says, وَمَهَّدْتُ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا. I made his life easy. سَأُرْهِقُهُ صُعُودًا. Now, I'm going to make it very difficult. Su'ud over here, sa'ida, means to climb a mountain, for example. Okay, so when you're climbing a mountain, you obviously get tired. Okay, it's not that easy to climb a mountain. So Su'ud is like that. I'll make his life unbearable now. It's going to be as if he's, climbing up the CN Tower. I don't know that competition they do. Like CN Tower, 300, whatever, 600 steps. Why? Why, Allah, are you going to make his life so unbearable? What did he actually do? Yes, he wanted more money and he was stubborn, but what did he actually do that was so unbelievable? The next ayat tell us that. He says he did tafkir. Okay? إِنَّهُ فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ. He did tafkir, meaning he thought, he contemplated, and he did a taqdeer. He kind of made a plan. Okay, he made a plan. Okay, what is this plan? Okay, we'll talk about it. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. I will talk about this. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. What is this? ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. So repetition. ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَصَرَ ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ وَاسْتَكْبَرَ. Nadara over here has some ikhtilaf, that's why I didn't translate it. But basically, nadara, I think it means he saw the Prophet, and thumma abasa, he frowned and he made a very, like a disgusting face at the Prophet. Thumma adbara wastakbara. Then he turned his back to the Prophet and he was basically doing takabbur. He was trying to be proud. And what did he say to the people? فَقَالَ إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ يُؤْثَرٌ. This is nothing but magic which is affecting everyone. In hada illa qawlul bashar. This is nothing but the kalam, the qawl of a man. Okay? Inshallah, these two are ayat. I will not even be able to get to the discussion on in hada illa qawlul bashar. That will be inshallah maybe next session. But before we get to the main discussion, there's a couple of points here. Okay. Firstly, let me discuss this qutila. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. Okay. This sentence is called al-jumla al-mu'tarida. Okay. Jumla mu'tarida is basically like a bracket. Okay, in parentheses. Okay, Allah is talking about something and then there's a bracket here at this point and then he's going to move on. So number 19, number 20 is kind of like that. Okay, al-jumla al-mu'tarida they call it. And this is a figure of speech. Okay, qutila كيف قدر. This is a figure of speech. And it's not just a figure of speech. It's in particular, specifically, it is called a kinaya. Okay, kinaya. Because if I were to translate this literally, it will say, for surely he has been killed. Because how dare he make this plot? Again, he has been killed. How dare he make this plot? That's the literal translation, but what does that mean? He wasn't killed. He's alive, right? So this is kind of like a kinaya, because it's like kinaya. What's a kinaya? Kinaya is kind of like a metaphor, kind of like majaz, but there is if I say I saw a lion in the jungle, a lion in the battlefield, okay, that's a pure metaphor. There's no lion. It's just a very brave, warrior. But kinaya has some truth to it. For example, if I say, the boots are on the ground. Okay, so meaning the soldiers are on the ground and their boots are on the ground. So there is a truth. The boots are literally on the ground. But what I really mean by that is that the army is ready to fight. Okay? Or if I say your native tongue is Arabic or Urdu or Farsi, tongue is just this physical thing. But what I really mean is that from this tongue you give your speech. Okay, so your native tongue is, or these are called kinaya, metonyms in English. They call it metonym. Okay, so Qutila over here, same thing. It says he is killed, but they have two opinions. They say either it means that you are doing a dua, I wish death for him, or it means la'na, okay, that I am cursing him. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرْ la'an on him. May death come to him. It's almost like a dua. May death come to him. How could he even think about making this entire plot and belittling the Quran? My kalam. Okay? And this is, which is basically important. So if you look at the Quran, there are some other places that is also mentioned. For example, Surah 51, Ayah 10. قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ. Death upon those who make conjectures against the true faith. Okay? Or la'an upon them. قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَ. Surah 80, Ayah 17. Surah 80, I believe, Surah Abasa. قُتِلَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا أَكْفَرَ. Am I right? Maybe someone can check. La'an on this insan, or how, may death come to this insan. How ungrateful is he? Okay, how ungrateful is this man? Okay, and also Surah 9, Ayah 30, it is there. And in Arabic, this qutila or this qatl also is sometimes used in a positive. It says, قَاتَلَهُ اللَّهُ. Okay, قَاتَلَهُ اللَّهُ مَا أَسْجَعَهُ. Okay, مَا أَسْجَعَهُ. Sorry, shuja. Meaning, it's like kind of like an English slang when you say, damn, that's sick. Okay, sick over here, what do you mean? They're like bimar, marid? No, that's amazing. So qatalahu Allah, meaning may God kill him. Like he's so amazing in the battle. How strong is this? So it's basically ta'ajjub, like you're mind blown. So it's kind of like that. That's how it's basically over there. And Zamakhshari, one of the mufassirin, he says that this qatalahu Allah is sometimes used out of jealousy. May Allah kill him. This guy's too strong. If you're battling someone, I don't know, in some game, you say, die already. So it's kind of like that, okay? But usually it's out of shock and astonishment and so on and so forth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using this over here against Walid because look, the plan and the plotting that is taking place in the earlier times in Mecca is very serious, because if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is killed right now, or if you belittle the epistemic value of his Quran right now, in the early stages, there's not that many people, you are basically destroying the entire religion. There's nothing, if you say, okay, in Medina, let's say, God forbid, the Prophet had passed away, okay, at least Islam is built, there's Medina, there's Sahaba, there's companions, there's a city, there's a structure, all of that is there. Religion is not going to go anywhere. But this is right in the beginning. And therefore, the severity of the crime is also based off of that. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very harsh. Inshallah, in the next session, I will talk about this harshness. I had mentioned it last week as well. I thought we said, in ta'aleem and tarbiyah, we're supposed to be very nice. When you want to do guidance for the community and children, for example, you got to be nice and show love. This is the beginning of the Quran, first 3 surahs. It's all very harsh. Inshallah, I will discuss that as well. Why is this harshness here? Of course, we know Quran has many opposite ayat as well, where there is love and so on. But why is it so harsh? Inshallah, I will talk about that in the next session, okay? What I want to focus on here, and if you look at, actually, no, I will talk about it next week, the behavioral discussion. If you look at his behavior, you're confused, like, what is this man doing? The Prophet just coming with the Quran, and he's like panicking, he's agitated, he's thinking, I got to figure something out, before this man comes and tells everybody this is true. He's thinking, he's making a plot, and the plot that he ends up making is his words. That's what the dangerous thing was over here. What did he say? He says, "In hada illa qawlul bashar." Sorry, what is it? فَقَالَ إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ يُؤْثَرٌ. This is nothing but magic that is affecting people, basically. And this is nothing but the qawl of the bashar. There are some interesting discussions here. Are these two ayat repetition of the same thing? Or is Walid saying two separate things? If I say, this is magic, and then I say, this is just the word of a man. So it almost sounds like these are two conflicting things over here. Like magic is something else, Yeah, it is a word of a man, but there's a spell involved. And remember, at that time, the Shi'a and the Sihr and the kahins, these the fortune tellers, the idea was that they had jinns that were helping them. That was the idea. So over here, the Sihr maybe is not even from the clan of the Prophet. Maybe the jinn is helping the Prophet. That's the idea. So what is this next one? This is qawl of the bashar, qawl of a human. This sounds like almost conflicting. Inshallah, next session I will talk that this is not really conflicting. It's more of an emphasis over here. Okay. We will now, for the rest of tonight, inshallah, talk a little bit about magic, sihr. Okay? Don't worry, don't be scared, inshallah. Nothing will happen. We are in the presence of the Quran, so inshallah, nothing will happen if you even believe in it. Right? We're going to talk about that. Look, what is so magic? Sorry, can you do the salawat, please? What is so magical about the Quran? Why is he saying this? Okay. Why is he calling it sihr? Sihr is mentioned about 60 times in the Quran. Different verbs and different nouns and stuff for it. Which shows that this idea of sihr, magic or sorcery, was a pretty prevalent concept in the minds and the senses of the Arabian people. And not just the Arab people, but rather sihr and magic and sorcery has existed. This idea has existed from centuries before Islam. Centuries before Islam, different nations. If you go to Greek, Europe, Persia, different Chinese, everyone has India. They have this idea and concept of sihr. The problem with the discussion of sihr and the difficulty is almost similar to the discussion of ghina. Ghina meaning, singing. So, for example, the default, concept we know that music is haram, singing is haram. That's the very basic, understanding we all generally have. But then, all the kids ask, oh, Malana, is this guy a rapper halal, or is this I don't even know all these guys, but is this guy halal? And the Malana Sahib gives a very basic. If it is suitable for a haram gathering, then don't listen. And the youth are like, what are you talking about? Like, what does that even mean? Okay, you go. This is I don't know. I wouldn't dance on this song. So youth make it like they have to ask questions. The scholars have no clue what this music even is, right? So there's confusion on the instances of ghina. This has always existed. Now contemporary discussions on ghina and stuff are very interesting in the hawzat. Okay, they have changed. They have very interesting new definitions and stuff by the mujtahideen and stuff. We will have a lot more clarity because now the research ability is much better nowadays. We have softwares and stuff. We can figure a lot of discussions out. Sihr is the same issue. Okay, just like ghina, they were not sure what exactly is this. If you say it's just singing, well, okay, no hazar singing, marsiya singing, qasida is all singing. Or kya hoti hai? Singing hoti hai. And then music is also haram. Well, now, first all instruments were haram. Well, now, have the nasheeds have instruments. So all of a sudden it became halal. All of a sudden, like what happened here, right? So there is this discussion. There's a genuine ikhtilaf on all of this because of the understanding and definition and so on. Because ghina always existed in human civilizations. Music always existed. There was never an instance in human history where there's no such thing as music. It was always existed. Okay. Likewise, sihr is the same issue. Sihr has always existed, but it's very difficult to figure out what are you talking about exactly. Okay, the actual definition is not very clear. Okay, what do you mean by sihr? Someone might come to you, for example, we may say to a non-Muslim, yes, if we read the tasbih of Lady Zahra, salamullah alayha, Allah will give us this protection. They will say, oh, this is magic. An outsider will say, this is magic. Okay, there's nothing physical happening here. You did some spell. So you see, there's confusion. How do you figure out what's going on? What we know, and the reason why people would, earlier civilizations would go towards this idea of sihr and so on is because, look, humans generally, we are always trying to find out causal relationships between events. Causal relationships, okay? Smoke is coming, then what is the illah for? What is the cause? Okay, the cause is the fire, okay? If the water is, evaporating, boiling, why? Well, there must be some heat. Okay, so I can figure out this is the cause, this is the effect. And you are, generally speaking, trying to look for material causes. Generally speaking, right? If, whatever, all the cause and effects that exist all around us, okay? But when you are unable to see a material cause between two things, there is this human tendency to attribute it to unseen matters. Okay, unseen matters. For example, back in the days in Europe, when humans became, sick or mentally sick, for example, they would say, yeah, a jinn has possessed this man, and they would maybe open the skull or something and maybe try to find something and so on, because they would say a demon has maybe, overtook them. The most famous work in Europe is written by a Catholic cleric, Heinrich Kramer, I think he's German, right? In 1486, it was called Hammer of Witches. This is a very famous book, Hammer of Witches. This whole thing that you've heard about, they would execute the witches, and mostly it was women. It was because of this guy. He said magic is real, witchcraft is real, sorcery is real, and any shak and doubt you have about, usually it was women. They have, you have doubt about them, execute them, kill them, they've been possessed and so on. This book had a huge impact in Europe, as you must have all learned about this in high schools and stuff. They mention these things, okay? So sihr is basically the attribution, okay, generally speaking I'm saying, is the attribution of an event to an unseen thing that people are unaware of, okay? And at that time of the Prophet, when they say sihr, they're saying he is coming with something and we are unable to see what it is. And what is this unseen thing? Most likely a jinn is helping him, which is true. That time when they say you have a sha'ir, you are a sha'ir, they believed in this valley, valley of Abqar or something, valley of Abqar in Mecca. They said over there the jinns live, and every famous sha'ir that is there, Imrul Qais and Antara bin Shaddad, all of these guys, they have a jinn that comes, helps them because they are so eloquent, humans cannot do it on their own. So he is saying the same thing to the Prophet. You are just coming up with a kalam, which is sihr, and you must have an external force that is coming and helping you. Okay? So that is what is happening. Now, what is the consequence of sihr? What does he mean, sihrun yu'thar? Asar in Urdu we say asar. Iska asar kya hoga? It's the same yu'thar. Okay? Ta'thir. So over there, the asar that they would generally believe about magic at that time is that, look, the Prophet is coming with the Quran and he is separating the families. Children are leaving their mothers. The wives want to leave their husbands. Okay, some husbands want to leave, their wives. Why? Because they're getting attracted to this man and his speech, his kalam. And it was astonishing people as well. It's not that, it was like some philosophy book or something. It was a very eloquent book. So it was causing issues in the, it was, shaking people's hearts, moving people's hearts. So he says this sihr. It was a perfect example of sihr because you are saying something and it's creating disruption and so on and so forth, okay? In the Quran, two famous places where sihr is mentioned and described, two of them, there's two main places. One is the story of Harut and Marut, which I'm not discussing. But the second most famous place is the story of Musa alayhi salam, which everybody knows over here. But I want to us just look at the ayat, okay? Because the discussion we want to have today is that does magic have a reality or no? Is it like Harry Potter that you say a spell and then something will happen? Or no, it's just an illusion. What is this thing? What is this thing? This is what the discussion we're trying to have. But look at the ayat of the Quran. Surah 7, ayah 111 to 120. I will not quote the whole ayat. It's about the story of Musa. Musa alayhi salam came back. The magicians are in the court and so on and so forth. Okay? قالوا ألقوا فلما ألقوا. Okay, when the magicians threw their staffs, سحروا أعين الناس. Okay? So when they threw the thing, they did sahr in the eyes of the people. Okay, the eyes of the people became sort of delusional. And it stunned them. And they وَاسْتَرْهَبُوهُمْ وَجَاءُوا بِسِحْرٍ عَظِيمٍ. So they came with something and they made a great display of this magic show. Okay? But what's important here is that it says سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ. They did sahr in the eyes. It doesn't say it did sahr with the staff, the sticks that they threw. Nothing happened with the sticks, it seems like. Okay? Okay, what about Musa alayhi salam? Well, Musa وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى أَنْ أَلْقِيَ عَصَاكَ فَإِذَا هِيَ تلقف ما يأفكون فوقع الحق وبطل ما كانوا يعملون, and so on, you know. وألقي السحرة ساجدين فقالوا آمنا برب العالمين رب موسى وهارون. Very famous, right? So when Musa alayhi salam throws the staff, it actually turns into a real snake. And the magicians know that this is not sihr. This is i'jaz. This is a miracle. And miracles, we all believe, are real. Like something really happens. When Isa alayhi salam is born through baby Maryam, it's real. Like she conceived and she, you know, whatever she gave birth. Like it was not some from external thing. You know, it was real. Or when Musa alayhi salam splits the sea or the river, whatever it was real. It was not an illusion in the minds of people. Whereas when the magicians threw the staff, it says sihr, but it was something in the eyes. So seems like this ayah seems like it's talking about an illusion. Okay? When, you know, if you look at the Quran, sihr is once again very negative. Because Allah says, don't call this stuff sihr. What is the sihr you're talking about? You know, and you have Surah al-Falaq, وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And I seek refuge from the evil of those women who blow into the knots. Okay, so it's like this magic thing that they would do. So Allah is almost condemning this. This is not anything, you know, of substance. But after the demise of the Holy Prophet, when Islam spread into different regions, particularly Egypt and those regions, Europe, you know, Turkey, and also obviously Persia, Iraq, these regions, these civilizations had a very ancient esoteric tradition. Okay, they had a very ancient mystical traditions where these things were part and parcel of life. Okay, talismans, amulets, you know, with letters, for example, you can write a letter, for example, or a ta'weez, and this and that. This existed. It always existed. Okay, and when the Muslims interacted with these nations, okay, you will find two camps that will get created. Very clear, you will find two camps in amongst the Muslim world, even amongst the Shi'a and even amongst the Sunnis. Those who have an inclination towards mysticism and esoteric studies, they will end up adapting a lot of these things, and they will produce their own literature. Muslim scholars, they will produce their own literature on this, and they will try and bring the Quranic ayat and stuff in it as well. Okay, we'll talk about it. And then there were, but these were usually, for example, the Ismailis, the Ghulat were very much into this. The Sufis, for example, are into this, so they produce literature on this. But usually the Ahlul Hadith, the Hanabila, you know, and even like the jurists, the Fuqaha, they were completely against this stuff. They were against this. They said this is, sometimes they will say it's haram, sometimes they will say this is just nonsense, hocus pocus, like it's not even real. Okay? So I want to quote two discussions. One is the fiqhi tradition. How did the Fuqaha see this? And I want to quote from Sheikh Ansari, okay, from his al-Makasib, because one of the most extensive places where it's discussed in fiqh is in a book called al-Makasib, okay? Because they talk about, can you teach magic? Is it haram to get money to teach magic? Makasib means trade, okay? So what is halal money, what is haram income, so on. So over there they discuss it in a lot of detail, okay? And Sheikh Ansari, okay, he quotes from different ulama, first the definition. They're trying to figure out what is this thing even. He says, some fuqaha said, our own fuqaha, it is the utterance of something or writing something or doing something which harms someone else. So harm is a criteria. Other fuqaha said it is the use of angels or shayateen to uncover unseen knowledge. Shaheed Awwal and Shaheed Thani said that it is, you know, using the jinns and shayateen to possess some child or woman to uncover unseen knowledge through their tongue. So get these children and women to utter unseen knowledge. Some said it is the use of spiritual powers due to spiritual exercises, okay, riyada, to affect the world, cosmos, or to the power of the planets, the energies, okay, not Captain Planet, but power of the planets, stars and their energy, or by combining the heavenly energies and the earthly energies, and this can be done through amulets, talismans, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is Shaykh Ansari. Then he quotes Allama Majlisi. He says Allama Majlisi gives a nice overview of different proclaimed types of magic. Okay, what different people said this is magic. What are there? 8 types. Number 1, magic is magic is done by those who used to worship the stars and the planets using their energies. Okay, he said this is something that if somebody does this is sihr. Okay. Some people said magic is that which is done by those who have a very strong soul. Okay, very strong. If you do tazkiyatun nafs, purify your soul and so on, you are able to do certain things in the world. Magic is done, number 3, is done through the help of earthly souls, the jinns and the shayateen. Magic is that which is illusions. So people said even illusions is sihr. Some said it is done, so look at this, guys. In those days, when new technologies were coming in Safa with Iran, look what al-Aman says. He says, when you see humans bring together different sciences and creating different things, like different new things, basically technological creation. Some people said this is a magic. So the example he gives is like some toy which you sort of turn it around and like it kind of walks around. So they're baffled, like, what is this? How did you do this? Okay. So some people said this is also sihr. And Sayyid he says, no, all these planes and stuff, this is not sihr. Okay, because that's what they meant. Magic is done by using certain food items. Okay, oh, eat this, and this will happen. Put this will happen. This is sihr. Magic is done through self-promotion and creating a cult. Sometimes people create cults, and people say, this is sihr. How did this man, the charlatan, how did he get all these people? Maybe he did sihr. And the last one is basically magic is done through gossip and spreading rumors. This is very common, okay? Sayyid Khoi says, let me go through each one of these and say which one is haram, which wasn't halal. He says, number 1, sihr is to alter the appearance of something from its actual form as a deceit or by camouflaging, but without it having any reality. So he's saying it's illusion. He says there's no reality to this. Extraordinary or miraculous things are not called sihr. And if someone is able to perform a strange act through the power of the soul, arrived at through spiritual exercise and so on, this person is not called a magician. And there's no evidence that this is haram. In fact, this is the slogan of the Ahlul Karamat. People who say there's karamat, this is literally what they believe in. We purify our souls and we can do certain interesting things. So this is not haram, but the earlier one, he says that is haram. Okay, the using the stars and the so on and so forth, he says this is not real. Number 2, the soul one, right? And he talks, I don't want to quote it too late. If anybody wants to read it, they can take my notes here. So number 2, he says, this is not sihr, this is from the karamat, and so on and so forth. And if you follow the sharia and get to this is desired, having through obedience and taqwa. Number 3, which is through the jinns and stuff, he says this is not sihr. This is outside the discussion of sihr. But he says, if you do this to harm someone, then it becomes haram. Okay? Meaning, if you are getting in contact with the jinns, for example, or shayateen, says this itself is not haram on its own. If something else you do with it, like harm someone, then it becomes haram. Number 4, which is illusions. He says, فَلَا يَرْتَبِطْ بِالسَّحْرِ. What does that have to do with sihr? Illusions is just illusions. Okay, there is no evidence is it prohibited. It is nothing but fast movements. And its prohibition has no meaning. Okay, once again, unless you are harming someone and so on. Number 5, creating new technology. Okay? وَالتَّرْكِيبُ الْعُمُورِ الْغَرِيبَ كَمَا هُوَ الْمَعْرُوفُ كَثِيرًا فِي الْعَصْرِ الْحَاضِرِ كَالطَّائِرَاتِ وَالْقَطَارَاتِ وَالسَّيَّارَاتِ وَصَائِرِ أَدْوَاتِ النَّقْلِ والآلات العجيبة المعدة للحرب ليس من المحرمات بعناوينها الأولية. Okay, there's all these planes and trains and even war weapons. Like, these are all new things for people. Humans haven't seen these things, right? So some people are like, okay, how did they create this? Maybe the Western people have some magic going on. This was actually a conversation 100 years ago. You can find it in the manuscripts. Maybe they have powers of the jinns. People do this even for Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah was in jail, the founderism of like the Wahhabis. His books are so strong, they say maybe the jinns helped him. How did this guy write so many books? He's in jail, right? So Sayyid Khoi thinks this is just technology is not important, no problem. Last one is the food. He says, how can you say if this food stuff is haram? The entire medical sciences is built on this. If he says this is haram, it will all become haram. And number 7 and 8 was basically promotion and cult. He says, look, on its own, it's not haram. It's not because it's not sihr. He says not haram because it's sihr. It's a type of a lie. So it becomes haram because it's a lie. It's a kid. Self-promotion and this, making a cult and so on. Through lies, obviously. And the last one is that, what is the last one? Gossip and spreading rumors. He said this is not sihr. This is just haram because it's gossip and so on and so forth. I have 1, 2, 3. I have a long discussion left, guys. So I think maybe I will pause it because I know maybe all of you are getting tired. I have a lot. I bought like 5 books today. Yeah, I think brothers might be getting tired. Some people are hesitant to say. Who's saying Bismillah? Brothers, uncles at the back, respected, are you guys exhausted? No? Maybe 25, 30 more minutes? Because I want to, next week I want to continue with my next discussion, which is also very long. Sisters, are you guys exhausted? Okay. Okay, so guys, that was the are you, brother, tired? Okay, you're good. I am, yeah, but I can continue. I am tired, yeah. As I said, I was a little bit under the weather as well, but I can continue. I want to get this out of the way. This, brothers and sisters, was magic in the opinions of the fuqaha, the jurists. They say it's haram, but they say these other things are not really sihr. Sihr, Sayyid is saying, is that illusion, okay? Through the, maybe, and he's saying it can happen. You can do it by invoking the energies of the planets and so on and so forth. He says, but it doesn't really have any reality. It's something that is creating, illusion in the eyes, okay? Which is also what the Quran was saying as well. But you would assume that even though sihr is haram, you would assume it never existed in the Muslim world, Islamic civilization. But this is far from reality. Regardless of what the Shia, Sunni, or Fuqaha and so on said, this idea of attributing cause and effect to unseen things created an entire discipline which is called al-ulum al-ghariba or al-ulum al-khafiyya. There is so much information on this now in English as well. Academic research, papers and so on, that you can just Google it, everything is online, YouTube videos and so on, which is basically called the occult sciences. Okay, occult sciences, okay? But before we do that, I want to mention that even in the Islamic civilization, there were 2 camps that got created, okay? Not just in the fuqaha, I will show you, Many said that, look, sihr has no reality. It is nothing but an illusion, okay? It is a superstition, it is a trick. And they will use the verse of Prophet Musa to prove it. They will say, look, Musa alayhi salam, the magician said, this is what we're doing, and Allah is saying this is just in the eyes, okay? But many other people said, particularly, as I said, those who are leaning towards mysticism, they say, no, sihr does have a reality. It does have a reality. Meaning, when I say reality, what I mean is, you can do a spell, you can kill someone. You can do a spell, and you can make someone sick. You can do a spell, you can do something, and you can make somebody stop. If they're walking, you can make somebody stop, okay? Or you can make a married couple get divorced. So they're saying this is a reality. And they will also quote, from Surah al-Falaq, وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. So clearly there is a shar, there is an evil that is created when the woman blowing the knots, okay? So they will say, no, there is some reality to this, okay? I want to quote Ibn Khaldun, one of the most important sociologists of the Muslim world, from his al-Muqaddimah, okay? Al-Muqaddimah, one of the most important books written in history, okay? Al-Muqaddimah. It is called al-Muqaddimah because it was an introduction to his history book, which is a separate book, and nobody reads that. But his introduction was so good that they published it separately. And this is the one that we care about. Al-Muqaddimah, okay? Unfortunately, this book, Muslims didn't care about it until the West published it. The West found it and they're like, oh, this published is good. Muslims are like, yeah, he's our guy. You guys never cared about him, unfortunately. He has a section on the sciences of sorcery and talismans. Okay, and I will obviously not quote the whole thing. But he says that, look, he talks about the history. How did magic come in? He talks about Jabir bin Hayyan. And he says a lot of it is linked with the Shia imams, and so on and so forth. There's a whole discussion, you can read up on it, okay? And he says, look, the souls of he talks about the ruh. He says, look, the ruh is able to do these things. He doesn't deny it. He says the ruh is able to do certain things in the world, in the kawn, in the takween of the cosmos. He says the souls of the Prophet have a particular quality through which they are prepared to have divine knowledge and to be addressed by the angels and influence upon created beings, okay, the mu'jiza and so on. The souls of certain magicians also have a similar quality. They can influence created beings and attract the spirituality of the stars, and they use it to exercise and influence through either a psychic or a satanic power. So look, you're going to start noticing sihr is those things which you are getting to through other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is important because you're going to start seeing, like, there's many things we do, tasbih and these things, they have impact, but these are all Islamic. Like Allah has told us to do this, or the Imams have told us to do this. But sihr is going to become those things that is done through non-religious ways, through the stars and through, I don't know, the jinns or whatever, right? So anyways, the souls of the soothsayers, on the other hand, have a quality enabling them to observe supernatural things by means of satanic shayatini powers. Thus, every kind of soul is distinguished by its particular quality, which does not exist in any other kind. The souls have a magical ability. The souls that have a magical ability are of 3 degrees. These 3 degrees will now be explained here. He says 3 things. The first kind exercises its influence merely through mental powers, without any instrument and aid. This is what the philosophers call sorcery. Allama Tabatabai has the same opinion. He says magic sihr is done through the mental power, which is your ruh. Your soul becomes very strong. The second kind exercises its influence with the aid of the temper of the spheres and the elements, or with the aid of the properties of numbers. Okay, so they say numbers also have some metaphysical, impacts. This is called talismans. Talismans. Is it talismans or talisman? I don't know. Talismans. It is weaker in degree than the first kind. So he's saying, yeah, this ta'weez or these things that you do, they have an impact. And the third kind is basically power of imagination, which is the illusion. Now look, remember I mentioned that there were 2 camps. One said there's no reality, one said there is a reality. He says over here, furthermore, since the first 2 degrees of sorcery are real, he says the first 2 I agree as well, they're real, and the third and the last degree is not real, scholars differ as to whether sorcery is real or imaginary. Those who say that it is real have the first 2 things in mind. And those who say it is not real have the third and last degree in mind, which is the illusion. He says, there is no difference of opinion among them about the matter itself. He says, actually, if you even ask the first camp that if somebody does the first degree or the second degree, can it happen? They will also say yes. But when they say no, it doesn't exist, what they mean is that there's about the third type where you are using the power of your imagination and making an illusion, for example. So he says this ikhtilaf, this difference of opinion is existing only because of this, not because the second group doesn't believe in it. Okay? So this is Ibn Khaldun. Now, in Ulum al-Ghariba, they ended up creating an entire world around this. These scholars, particularly the Sufi tradition, they created an entire tradition around this. And they took, because remember, for them, the world has an outer and an inner, a zahir and a batin. Okay? So everything around you, first and foremost, is just a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names for them. And everything has an apparent and a zahir. So numbers, letters, combining them, huruf, dots, this, that, everything has a zahir and a batin. Okay? And they created an entire discipline called the Ulum al-Ghariba, the occult sciences. Okay? And they wrote books and books and books. Okay? Once again, this resulted in takfir and issues and conflicts. The Ahlul Sunnah, many of the Ahlul Sunnah said this is haram, what is this? Many of the fuqaha said, what is this nonsense, and so on and so forth. But the place where this could have been legitimized and produced, it had to be mysticism. Because in mysticism, the way of argumentation is very different. It's not like, oh, give me proof, premise 1, premise 2. No, it's about your soul. Your soul goes and witnesses certain things, and it comes down on earth and it tells you the realities. So when you look at the books of some of these Ulum al-Ghariba, there's no proof for anything. They're just telling you, do this, do this, do this. You're like, where do you get this from? From a hadith, from a Quran ayah, from an imam? Like, where are you getting this stuff from? And that's where many ulama had issues. Okay, so for example, and by the way, before I mentioned the books over here, we are not denying the sort of supernatural impacts or hidden causes behind certain actions. This is part of our religion. For example, in our books, in our hadith corpus, for example, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, قال ما من عبد يقرأ آخر الكهف إلا تيقظ في الساعة التي يريد. If you read the last section of Surah al-Kahf, you will be able to wake up any time in the night. What is this? Sounds like sihr. Like, what is in the ayat of Surah Kahf that is creating this real impact? So I'm saying in our tradition, we do have this. There are things you can say and do and invoke the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ayat of Allah and so on and so forth that have real impact. But we're saying we take it from the Quran and the Hadith. Okay? For example, قال Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, قال لو قرأت الحمد على ميت 70 مرة ثم ردت فيه الروح ما كان ذلك عجبا. If you read Surah al-Hamd 70 times over a dead body, this is a reliable narration, it's a reliable, authentic. If you read it 70 times over a dead body and it comes to life, don't be astonished, nothing to be shocked about. So Surah al-Hamd seems like it has some power. This is what we're talking about, okay? Other things. I did a presentation for Mizan Institute on the Turba of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. You can watch it on Mizan Institute. It's about 2 hours, 1.5, 2 hours. The properties of the Turba al-Hussein, it has qualities in our hadith tradition. If you take a little bit, mix it in water, if you drink it, it cures you. But there's nothing physical, like you cannot put it into a laboratory test even. It's very difficult. But so what I'm trying to say here is that we do believe that these things can exist. But we should try and get it from the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. Otherwise, you must ask, where are you getting it from? Who is teaching you? Where did you get it from? And this is the problem you will see with some of these guys. One of the most famous books written in the Islamic civilization was called Shams al-Ma'arif. Okay, this is translated by Sister Amna Inlaws. She's a Shi'a sister in ICAS, very well-known sister. Shams al-Ma'arif by Ahmad bin Ali al-Buni. Al-Buni is in Algeria, modern-day Algeria. Okay, 1225, and he's a contemporary of Ibn Arabi. Okay, Ibn Arabi and these guys, these two are contemporary, and they seem like they have the same teacher. For him, the entire cosmos is just, as I said, manifestation of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what these guys do, okay, he says, my goal in the chapters of this book is to present the revered knowledge of the names of Allah, the oceans of jewels and secrets and refined wisdom. I also hope to explain how to employ the divine names through invocations and similar matters pertaining to the letters of the chapters and verses of the Quran. So it sounds very religious, like, yeah, I'm going to use the ayat and stuff. The question is, how, like, you're not infallible, you're not an imam. So how do you know this is correct? Because when you look at the chapters, okay, for example, he will tell you how to get someone to spill their secrets in their sleep. Okay? So they used to have something called magic squares. Okay, magic squares. In the Jantri they have it, the Zaicha, right? That's what it is, right? So the magic squares, they put numbers, and each number from horizontally, vertically, diagonally has to equal the same. And these numbers have, values with like words and ayat and so on and so forth. So they put them on like ceramics or the paper, ta'weez, and they, whatever they want to do, they do it, right? For example, for childbirth, very famous, for childbirth, they will make this 3x3 square or 6x6 square, and they will put on a ceramic, and they will tell the woman to look at it or stand on it for ease of childbirth. Okay. So now, if you want to get someone to spill the beans in their sleep, he says, write this ayah, Surah Baqarah 72, 73, and use it with this square. So he tells you the square. Okay, write this. To do that, write the verse, then place it on the chest of the sleeping person. Ask him whatever you want, he will tell you by the permission of God. This can only be done by people with a strong sense of spiritual insight. Okay? This is a thing. So the Jedi hand trick. Okay, Jedi hand trick basically is about like, you write something on a piece of paper and you can kind of like go like this. It's real. And actually the footnote says, while admittedly this header is not in the book, it is not far from the mark, given that some of the inspiration for Star Wars was taken from North African Sufism. Right? So Jedi hand trick. So he's putting it here. Taking everything from Islam. Halting travelers. So someone is walking. No, may God grant you and me obedience towards him. That the letter Sheen is a very harsh letter for these scholars, is found in Arabic, Syriac, and Coptic. Coptic is in Egypt. It is a fiery, dry letter of the third degree. It can specifically be used to stop someone from sailing out to sea or to halt a traveler on land. The letter Qaf, written like this, stops others. So it tells you how to draw the Qaf. Inscribe it like this on a sheet of lead during an inauspicious hour and burn incense of sparrow and bat head. I don't know where you're going to get bat head, okay? These are the verses, blah, blah, blah. Then bury it by the road and you will be amazed. There's many stuff, everlasting love and this and that, all sorts of stuff if you're interested. But it is considered to be the most like the scariest book ever. So, read it on your own. Disclaimer. But I just want to show you like this. Don't think this didn't exist. This was part and parcel of the Islamic civilization. And if you go back to Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, you will see this is actually still very common. I'm not even rejecting it, by the way. I'm not saying, I'm just saying maybe you might want to ask for proof for some of these things. Okay? The religious stuff from the riwayat and the Ahlul Bayt, we accept it. But some of this stuff, like, where did you come up with this? Bad head and this and that. It's not from the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. Another book, last, I'm going to inshallah end with this. Another book written in Herat. Herat is modern day Afghanistan, by a man named, Safi Ali. Died in 939. He was the son of Mullah Hussein Kashifi. Herat and Khurasan region in the 10th century was a hotbed for this type of literature. Okay, so he writes a book called Hirz al-Aman. This is in manuscripts, not even published yet. Okay, and he says, the author, look at him. He says, I'm writing this book, which has a lot of benefits, and so on and so forth, and it has the Asma al-Husna and so on. And he says it is mansoob to the Hazarat Karam A'immah Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, at-tahiyya was salam. He just says, and this is, I'm attributing this to the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt. Now, if this book comes to the Awam, you can say, oh yes, this is a reputable scholar, he's attributing to the Imams, they will buy it. They will buy it. You're saying it's from the Imams. So of course, so he says from the Imams. Okay, what is the benefit of this? Benefit of my book is you can have physical and spiritual bliss. And the people who should be utilizing this book are those who are in important positions, lofty positions, governors, leaders, those who are close to the Sultan and their representatives, because they have the responsibility of taking care of their citizens. For these people, knowing these sciences is wajib, because they will be able to be successful in their positions, they will be able to control the souls of the tyrants and oppressors, their citizens will be attracted to them, and they will be able to destroy their enemies. Okay, as I said, the way these books are written are just claim after claim after claim. There's no evidence like, Muqaddama and Tali, this is Burhan. No, it's just, their experiences that they're putting out. And then he goes on the chapters, how to destroy your enemies, write this on a piece of paper, put your enemy's name on it, draw a circle around it, and somehow the enemy is supposed to be destroyed. So I will wrap it up, inshallah, with this. A lot was covered today. Feel free to go through these books if you want. I'll leave them over here. There is one more book called the Book of Charlatans. So this guy was a magician who he converted. He says, you know what? I was a bad guy. Let me just expose all of this to you guys, what the tricks are. Okay? So he was a well-known charlatan, I think 8th, 9th century. Jamaluddin Abdul Rahim al-Jawbari. Okay, Jawbari. And it's a very fun book to read. It says, so I'll read the thing, those, tricks of the people. Wait, where's that? Just the fahris a little bit. Tricks of those who invite taskhir, invite jinns, like the Ouija board thing. How do they do it? He tells you how we used to do it. Tricks of the doctors who practice on the highways. Tricks of those eye doctors who use metal instruments. Tricks of, those who, I don't even know some of these, what on earth they were doing. Tricks of those who work knockout drugs. Okay, tricks of the jewelers, scammers, and so on, magicians as well, masters of the craft, sneaky thieves who come into your house. How do they come? Right, so on and so forth, and so on, yeah, inshallah. So this is all I wanted to cover today. As I said, greediness, stubbornness was the main point, and then the last point was sihr. Why is he saying sihr? Sihr is this entire world over there. So it's not like an irrelevant thing, oh, this is magic. No, when he says this, consider this entire discussion that we just had. This was part and parcel of their life at that time, okay? Next session, inshallah, we'll talk about a behavioral discussion. Why is Walid acting like this? Why is he getting agitated? And then after that, we will talk about qawlun lil bashar. This is the kalam of a bashar. Is the Quran really kalam of a bashar? Qawl of a bashar? It will be kind of like a theology class. I know a lot of brothers ask for theology classes. This will be a theology class. We will prove from the Quran itself that there is internal consistency, that this is not the word of the Prophet, this is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.